Crypto was born out of a rebellion against the traditional financial system. But did it really work? Is it really sovereign? Is it actually decentralized? Or did the very people that crypto was rebelling against recapture crypto and actually re-centralize it? And it turned into the very thing it was trying to fight against. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly why I believe that crypto has been re-centralized. It is not sovereign. It is not completely free. It is captured by a small elite, and I'm going to show you exactly why. And we're going to go through historical examples as well to prove my point. So let's get into it, guys. Crypto is a lie. The myth of decentralized freedom. Hades Alpha, the ideology of control. Let's start with the content. I'm really excited to make this video, by the way, guys, because this is something I'm very passionate about. And I've been wanting to talk about this video for a very long time. So the first piece of the content is the capture of freedom. So how did Bitcoin begin and how did it get captured? And what does this mean right now? We're going to get into the Great Re-Centralization, how crypto became re-centralized, literally under, like, no one even realized it became centralized, right? Because crypto was meant to be decentralized, but then under everyone's noses, it all came together. And now an elite few actually control crypto. The architecture of control, how this elite few control crypto. The cycles of revolution. We're going to base this on a baseline understanding of history, because I'm a lover of history and I want you guys to learn with me a little bit too. So I'm going to explain some historical examples that support my case. We're going to get through the psychology of belief and then the new reality. Like what this means for us. Is crypto cooked? Is it done? Should we stay here? We're going to get into everything in this video, guys. But let's begin with the capture of freedom. Start with a promise. Like I said, crypto began as a rebellion, born from the ashes of the 2008 financial crisis when governments bailed out the same banks that caused the collapse. People watched a broken system get rewarded for failure, and they wanted an alternative. In the first Bitcoin block, Satoshi Nakamoto left a message saying, "The Times, 3rd of January 2009, Chancellor is on the brink of the second bailout for banks." And what this meant exactly is that he realized the financial system was cooked forever. The banks were bailing out, just like I said, the very people that caused this financial crisis. This was not random. It was a statement of intent. Bitcoin was designed and made as protest against this financial system because Satoshi Nakamoto was very, very intelligent and he knew exactly what the banks being bailed out meant. It meant what we have now. It meant that we have a financial system that no longer serves the people. It meant that a normal person can't go and work a normal job and ever afford a house in their whole life. They have to rent for their entire life. It means that they are controlled and captured by their financial system. So Bitcoin was made as a rebellion against this. A monetary system based on transparency, on fairness, and resilience to manipulation. Don't trust, verify, be your own bank. These weren't just slogans, these are rejection of the old financial world. For a few short years, it actually worked. Value could move freely, borderless, permissionless, and immune to policy. But as volume grew, so did attention. And the very same institutions that had once been exposed to Bitcoin's creation began circling this time and ready to own the revolution instead of being taken over by it. A captured asset class. Governments and institutions realized they couldn't destroy crypto, so they decided to capture it. They saw the movement growing so fast, and then it moved under the banner of regulation and mainstream adoption. Crypto guys were happy about this. I remember people were happy that kind of mainstream Wall Street was going to get involved in crypto. But that's purely out of greed. It's because they wanted to make money. This really kind of cut through and ended the reason why crypto actually began. So, like I said, Wall Street wrapped Bitcoin in ETFs, subduing the rebellion and turning it into a product. Regulators built frameworks that quietly routed all serious money back through the same banking rails. The old world didn't fight centralization, it rebranded it and captured it. And by the way, this is what they do with everything that they don't like. Anything they don't like, they capture it and then they turn it and then they rebrand it. So I'll give you a very good example. A good example of this is actually football. And this is not a bad example, it's just an example. Football started as a kind of working class sport, soccer, I should say for the American friends out there, a working class sport. born out of the ashes, organic movement. And then the elites thought to themselves, actually, this is a pretty good spot. We could take advantage of this. So what happened? They started having sponsorship deals. Sky Sports deals with TV programs, building bigger stadiums, starting to advertise it more. And then it created what we have today, an institutionalized system of soccer that the elites make so much money off everyone going to watch the soccer sport. It's not a bad point, but I'm just showing you that this is a system of control that they've used a lot in the past. The quiet takeover, what started as a peer-to-peer project, now runs on corporate infrastructure. This is the brutal truth. Stablecoins are backed by banks. Exchanges act like centralized clearinghouses. Governments don't need to ban crypto when they can steer it through licensing, taxation, and surveillance. Each concession looks harmless on its own, like we all know. They move slowly at a time. Before you look back and they've moved a mile, right? An app here, a rule there. But altogether, the elites have literally rebuilt the whole system, only shinier. The architecture of control was reconstructed inside the thing that it was supposed to escape. And it's very, very sad. The irony is that the rebellion didn't fail. It simply evolved into the perfect test case for digital control. A transparent network where every transaction is logged forever. Every participant is identifiable. And every movement of capital can be traced in real time. The transparency that meant accountability now means surveillance. Crypto didn't kill centralization. It taught it how to scale globally. And we have here a picture of the Times newspaper. Chancellor on brink of second bailouts for banks. 2009, the rebellion begins. This was the final straw for Satoshi Nakamoto. He was probably already thinking a lot about crypto. This was the final straw. Final nail in the coffin. So the Great Re-Centralisation. We start with consolidation. Power always finds a way to centralize. No matter what the technology promises, money always finds its way back into power. Today, most of crypto's activity runs through a handful of exchanges, Binance, Coinbase, Kraken, and a handful of stablecoin issuers. The small circle of market makers and funds move the majority of the volume. What was meant to be a network of equals became another pyramid, with control quietly sitting at the top. Modern cartels like Binance. Binance acts like the central bank, decides where the tokens live or die. Tether functions as a private treasury, printing digital dollars at will. Market makers manage volatility like monetary policy and printing and expanding and contracting liquidity to shape emotion. It's not coordination in the open, it's parallel incentives. The players don't need to collude when the system rewards the same behavior. The custody trap. Control no longer comes from ownership anymore. It comes from custody. Not your Bitcoin, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. That's the same. Most people don't hold their own coins. They literally just hold access to them. They sit on servers like on Binance. You think you're decentralized until your account is frozen, until FTX fails and gets deleted and you lose all of your money. Freedom outsourced is freedom lost, not your keys, not your crypto. Regulation is recapture. The rules that promise safely, quietly re-established hierarchy. Know your customer, anti-money laundering rules, and disclosure. Each one justified as necessary, as they always do, but each one pulling power back upstream to the elite. And no one said anything. No one ever said anything. They just let it happen, as they would. The old guard didn't need to ban decentralization. They just smothered it in regulation. So what began as autonomy slowly turned into admin. And the outcome is that crypto is now a controlled environment. It behaves free enough to look open, but closed enough to protect the interests of those who matter. The circle is complete. The elites have won. They've literally met their objectives. Look at this. All Wall Street banks are talking about crypto now. They all own loads of Bitcoin. It's done. And this is exactly what happened here. Power doesn't disappear. It just concentrates. Okay? And this is a great example of that. The architecture of control. The triad. So who actually controls crypto? So we have exchanges, we got stable coins, we got market makers. They form the invisible triangle, and these guys run the market. Exchanges control access, stable coins control flow, market makers control movement. And together they choreograph what looks like random price action. But it's not organic. It's orchestrated liquidity to extract you dry and put more money into their pocket. So liquidity engineering, like I've mentioned a lot of times in my videos, volatility isn't a flaw of the system, it's a feature. They need volatility in order for you to get involved in crypto and trade, and they take the fees from the trading. Market makers make money whether the market goes up or down. Stablecoin issuers, exchanges make money whether it goes up or down. They don't care. All they care is about keeping you playing. Low volume is the death of the crypto control system. Narrative control. Regulators don't just shape behavior anymore, it shapes emotion. A lawsuit, a headline, a tweet from a regulator, all timed to control sentiment. Fear creates entry points, optimism creates exits. The news doesn't report the market uses the news to manage liquidity. So what looks like chaos is often coordination, and that's what we've seen recently with all the news events. Trump putting on tariffs on this X many countries, China, Mexico, Canada. It's all coordinated to extract us dry. Manufactured sentiment. This is one of the worst ones, in my opinion. Big institutions play both sides of the story. So when the market peaked, we had the big bull market in 2021. Banks like JP Morgan called Bitcoin the future. And then after FTX crash, at the bottom around maybe 2022, November time, those same banks were flooding the headlines with fear. They called crypto a scam. And it wasn't conviction, it was positioning. At the top, they were offloading exposure, and at the bottom, they were accumulating into panic quietly. So the news is not a reflection of sentiment. They're creating it to suit their own incentives. And a programmable future. Central bank digital currencies are the logical conclusion of what the elites actually want. Money that can be frozen, issued, expired with a line of code. The same blockchain tech that promised sovereignty and freedom will be the backbone of programmable finance. And in my opinion, this is very, very scary. It's exactly what we're seeing with CBDCs right now. So crypto began as a rebellion is actually the very thing that is going to begin and become even more controlled than the fiat system. Macro integration. So the institutions that shaped the global financial order, such as the central banks, the IMF, the BIS, have been experimenting with cross-border digital currencies and tokenized assets. So under the banner of innovation and financial inclusion, they're building a unified digital liquidity grid where value moves instantly and transparently across borders. It's marketed as progress, but the outcome is the same. More visibility, more compliance, and less privacy, and this is exactly their incentive. And finally, surveillance by design. Transparency was sold as virtue. In practice, it means nothing is private. Every transaction can be tracked, analyzed, and modeled. The system doesn't need you to guess anymore as it goes. Decentralization doesn't hide you, it exposes you permanently, and this is the big red pill. And this is a diagram that shows the machinery of the market. So we have the stablecoins, access exchanges, market makers. We got the central banks and the large financial pitters down here. And the point of this diagram is that it shows that decentralization became infrastructure for control. The cycle of revolutions. Now, as we've established, crypto was a revolution, and it's really important for us to understand previous revolutions in order to understand the current crypto revolution. So we're going to go into a few now. We're going to start with the pattern. Every revolution begins decentralized, but always ends under new control. Not because people choose it, but because power naturally concentrates. Incentives reward those who can organize, influence, and extract. Over time, leaders rise, systems form, and the few who master them consolidate advantage. Unfortunately, decentralization, for humans at least, it's just unstable by design because we weren't designed to have a decentralized society. From the whole of our evolutionary track, we've always had a centralized system. So coordination is profitable. The incentive is for someone to build the structure to control it. Once that structure exists, it attracts capital, compliance, and dependence. And that's why every movement that begins open eventually ends. Just like the English Revolution. So to give a bit of context, at the time Charles I was king, and he was having a lot of quarrels with the current parliament. And what ended up happening is that we had a monarch system, and there was a massive revolution, and then we turned into a parliamentary system, which was supposed to be a little bit more fair, a little bit more open. But what actually happened was that it was far more stricter and far more controlling than the previous rule. The freedom couldn't function without its leadership, so power returned under a new name. And Cromwell actually named himself the Lord Protector, essentially a new elite. So rebellion often leads to new elites. French Revolution, very similar thing. They tore down the monarchy for liberty, and what they got is the Reign of Terror and then Napoleon. So the revolution didn't die, it matured into an empire. And the same thing happened here. Crypto was the uprising, the institutions are the empire. The best example for crypto, in my opinion, is the Bolshevik Revolution. So this is the Russian Revolution, and it began under the banner of equality because the monarch was not very nice to the people, to be honest with you. There was a lot of exploitation and imperial rule. Once the monarchy fell, a new elite instantly rose. The Bolsheviks promised people that they would be fair, that the land and the workers would rise up to power and everyone would be equal. But it was under the guise of serving the worker, but they built one of the most centralized power structures in history. A small committee controlled the entire government, the economy, the media, and the population itself. Dissent was criminalized and information was controlled. So essentially, it's what crypto was. Crypto started with a guise for freedom. It's going to save the people. But unfortunately, it's been captured, and power always concentrates at the top, which is unfortunately what we're seeing here. And is what I write next here, the crypto revolution. So the reason is that freedom collapses while coordination becomes unnecessary. The more complex a system gets, the more central nodes it needs to function. Efficiency always wins over idealism. It's not a conspiracy, it's just incentives. And we've got a great picture here of Cromwell, Napoleon, and Lenin. And it's very, very true. This is this life cycle of a revolution. Every revolution rebuilds the hierarchy and leads to a new elite, which we've seen in crypto. The psychology of belief. Faith in the narrative. Crypto survives off faith and belief in decentralization. Traders believe they're part of something bigger, that they're early. That belief keeps capital flowing through crypto no matter what, which is essentially what the elites want. Hope as leverage. Every cycle resets belief. A new chain, a new token, a new promise that the power dynamic will change, but it doesn't. Every single cycle, the power remains and kind of flows to the top, so it becomes even harder for freedom. The illusion of agency. The crowd believes it's in control because it can click, trade, and post, but every choice routes them through the system that's controlled by someone else. Think about the modern financial system. Let's say you live in New York City. If you want to live in New York City, you have to rent somewhere. So you have to rent through the financial system. You have to pay someone rent, and that person owns the property. Every time you go out for eating food, you have to pay tax on that food. In England, it's called VAT. And you have to also pay probably a large institution like McDonald's, Burger King, Walmart. These are large corporate infrastructure. You can't escape the infrastructure, unfortunately. If you want to play the game of crypto, you cannot escape it either. Weaponized transparency. People trust what they see. Open ledgers look honest, but they make every participant traceable. Transparency became the prettiest form of surveillance. And the mechanism is that control doesn't really feel like oppression anymore. It feels like participation. And that's why the lie works. People defend it because it gives them identity in crypto. So the new reality. Well, the game has changed, guys. You can still make money. You can still build. You can still find an edge. But understand the game that you're in. You're not early. You're not outside of the system. You have to understand and realize that we are very much operating inside a machine built and designed by the very powers it claimed to replace. You have to understand the shift. Early phase of crypto was discovery. Builders were experimenting, believers taking risk, a frontier of genuine innovation. The middle phase was infrastructure, exchanges, custodians, stablecoins, creating the system for mass adoption. And now we've entered administration, the stage where institutions take over and regulate the flow and extract predictable returns. So, in a sense, that's it. The institutions are here, they're going to extract predictable returns. It means we can make money, but it just means we're playing inside the system. So how to survive? what you have to detach from ideology, focus on the incentives, don't worship decentralization, study who benefits from them. And understanding will be enough. If you understand it and you play in the game, you're going to be fine. The new truth is that decentralization wasn't the destination. It was the on-ramp for the next level of control. Programmable, trackable, global. Sounds like something else, right? Sounds like CBDCs. The dream of autonomy gave birth to the most efficient control grid in history. So you can still win in crypto. You can still build wealth. You can still find an edge. You can still move faster than the crowd. Most people misunderstand the industry, so there's time still. Ask most of your normie friends. They will misunderstand this industry. But the advantage now belongs to us. We understand the real structure of crypto, and we understand how to operate it in it consciously. So you're not escaping the system anymore. You're trading inside it with open eyes, playing the game as the elite, but on your own terms. Crypto didn't free you from the system. It taught the system how to perfect control. And once you see that, belief ends and strategy begins. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Any questions, please leave them down below. I literally look at every single comment, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. Take care. Bye-bye.